I'm a teaching and learning consultant. With Trafera, been here for about 6 months, started in July. I guess, shoot, we're longer than 6 months now. But before that, I had the honor and the privilege of being a principal, director of technology. I was an instructional technology coordinator and a special ed teacher, about 15 years in education. And I just love getting the chance to talk about my experiences, the expertise and experiences of my amazing coworkers and team I work with, as well as talking to so many of you guys and sharing your expertise and best practice. So super stoked today to kind of jump into it. We've got a lot to cover and not a ton of time, but I just think it's going to be great. We're going to be going over kind of the 3 T's that I think of around school culture, and that's tools, teams, and training. We're going to, at the end, have a couple key takeaways, and then we'll have a few minutes for Q&A at the end. As we're going along, please feel free, toss your questions in those chats, and we will get to them. As we start, I want to hand this off to Dianne because she has just some incredible stories about how she has leveraged and used teams to incredible effect. So Dianne, please take it away.
Thank you, Scott. So I think I forgot to mention in my intro that I've served as the Chief Technology Officer for 22 years. So I've seen a lot, and I'm very proud of the things that I accomplished in my district. So today I would like to share with you a few examples of communication and collaboration strategies that I use to promote positive culture. And I'm going to address this from 4 areas. I'm going to talk a little bit about the team, your technical team within your department, with the district team, within the community, and within the state. So let me start off by talking about my technical staff. One of the things that I always preached is that you have to have an understanding of your customers. Who are your customers? Who are your end users? And to help with that understanding, I always encouraged my staff to do classroom visits, and I also supported their participation in conferences. I wanted them to experience how the technology was being used and hopefully how they can connect to it to their position. I encouraged them to attend sessions where maybe it was a teacher presenting a lesson on an interactive flat panel. I wanted them to see how their service ticket for that flat panel, if not completed in a timely manner, will affect overall class instruction and, of course, student achievement. I always preached to them to over communicate. I always wanted them to provide timely feedback and response on all their tickets. And one of the best things that I've purchased as a CTO was the Incident IQ platform. And for those of you who don't know what Incident IQ is, it is an asset management and work order platform where the district can easily customize responses and workflow such that it saves so much time on the back end for the technician to respond to a ticket. The next thing that I had the benefit of was in my office, I had open office space. So all of my technicians were housed in 4 walls. They each had an office, but it was an open room. So they were allowed to support one another, to share ideas. And it was extremely helpful when we had a new technician on board. I always had an open door policy. Whenever they came to me with a problem, I encouraged them to come to me with the problem, but also to come to me with a solution. And together we can come with decide on a resolution. And that way they felt a part of the process and included in the process. And one thing that I would like to challenge you all on is to continue to identify ways to leverage service providers so that it would provide more time for you and your department to collaborate and to provide professional development. In my past role as CTO in Iberia, I wish I would have known more about Trafera's warranty program and service. And now that I'm on staff, it would have been an awesome opportunity for a reasonably priced solution that I could have used to save time in my district on services in order to provide my staff with more opportunities to collaborate and more opportunities for professional development. If they're not always, right now, they're charged with primarily fixing a Chromebook issue, and that's what they do all day. But if you could use providers to help with some of that service and use your staff in other places, such as looking more into security and using all those platforms that you have but may not have time to get in because you're just shorthanded or there's not enough time in the day. So take advantage of the service providers to be able to free up more time for collaboration, professional development, and to put you in a better maybe security posture or whatever. The next thing I want to talk about is within your district. Try to avoid islands of wonderfulness. In my decision-making process, I rarely made the decision alone. I always sought input from stakeholders. I worked with administrative teams, principal teams, curriculum teams, our state testing team. Never made a decision. I always, where possible, tried to form committees, and I'll give you a couple of examples. When we were trying to decide on an interactive flat panel to install in all classrooms across the district, I put together a committee of not only tech staff, but curriculum staff, teachers, principals, even the superintendent participated. I called in the different manufacturers and vendors, had them do a presentation, and together we decided on what would be the best fit to meet the needs of our teachers and students in the district. When we started our one-to-one Chromebook journey, I formed a committee of tech folks, curriculum people, parents, and students, and we looked at different Chromebook manufacturers. We brought them into classroom. We watched the students interact with them, and together we made a decision to meet the needs of our students and teachers. And one thing that I would like to also encourage is, whenever possible, please try and do POCs, or should I say proof of concepts. We did that when we selected a content filter. We offered 4 solutions, spent 4 weeks on each solution at the end of the school year, and involved an elementary, a middle, and a high. And at the end of each POC, we met with the groups. We talked about the successes, the failures, the goods, the not so goods, that what we liked, what we didn't like, and we talked about what solution would be best for the district. And in this situation, their favorite was not technology's favorite. And that was a hard conversation to have. But at that point, I was able to provide reasons, mostly on the security side of things, which our teachers don't understand. But I was able to provide reasons why we can't go with this solution because of this problem, but this is the solution that we would like to go with. And I felt that that helped because it was buy-in. They were a part of the process. Their voices were heard, but they understood why we could not select the application that they preferred. Within your community, how can I promote positive culture within a community? Well, as educators, we do not toot our own horn nearly enough. we need to tell our story. If we don't tell our story, if we don't tell the good things that we do in our system, others will. And unfortunately, it will not be the true story, perhaps. So we always want to tell our story. I encourage schools to use social media, use Facebook, post pictures of your parent night, of the students interacting with the technology, of the teachers delivering a lesson on the panel, of the teachers using the hover cam along with the panel, a document camera. Anytime you can show off what you are doing that impacts teaching and learning, I promise you it is a win for everyone. Another use of telling our story that has helped us in my district was, I'm sure you all are familiar with voting and bond renewals. We had a renewal a while last year where we had to go to the voters and ask for or for some money, and we were successful. And not only that time, but every time before, because we did some PR campaigning, we put together videos, we went out and videoed students in classrooms interacting with things that we purchased with funds from the prior bond renewal, and put that out on our website, put that out on social media, and proud to say that we were able to successfully pass that bond renewal every time. How do we foster positive culture within our state? Well, like I said, I'm from Louisiana, so I am very fortunate to have an active state technology organization, but I'm pretty sure all states do. So please get involved in your state EdTech group. Reach out to folks, make connections. Another thing I started when I was in the district, I formed a Google group. I invited at least one person from every district across the state. And it was an awesome tool to support one another across the state. Everyone received an email when someone sent some, how do I do XYZ? Or, hey, anyone uses the Promethean Active Panel version 9. What are some of the features? How are you using it in your K-12 setting? Or, hey, would you be willing to share? I'm looking at writing a new acceptable use policy for my district. Would anyone be willing to share? So that was an awesome support mechanism for all the peers in my state, and it was really a great tool to have. So if you do not have something like that in your state, reach out to peers. Start small, maybe within a certain region of your state, and it'll only grow from there. I could not imagine having successfully been able to do my job without the support of my peers from across the state. And last but not least, one thing that I would do if I were still in the district that Trafera also does a great job at in promoting culture is we have an employee recognition program where we have incentives for reaching out to our colleagues to say, hey, job well done. I appreciate you for helping with this, or I appreciate you for going above and beyond. Thank you for your teamwork. So support, recognition, collaboration, communication are all important characteristics in building a positive school culture.
No, that is awesome, Dianne. And I loved how you kept talking about, you talked about that customer service focus, really having your team do that. And I heard over and over again, the thing that I kept thinking about is creating space. Like creating space for professional development, collaboration, creating space by networking, creating space by, like say, standing on the shoulder of giants that you work with, and so that you could really focus on making sure that you are doing that high quality work, getting the collaboration, getting the PD for your team. And then you just touched on all those different levels. Awesome. Super cool. Amazing. I'm going to continue the conversation, continue the awesomeness with Josh Ratliff, Director of Education Initiatives. Love to hear about how you could take this, expand, and kind of see where you could take it into the training aspect in building your school culture, Josh.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. I was scratching out notes as Dianne was talking, and I just cannot move on without highlighting a few things that she said that Dianne just let them slip right by, and I just have to call them out because it's easy for Dianne to not recognize in terms of these islands of excellence or islands of wonderness. I don't think that she realizes the level of expertise and excellence that she brings. So let me just call this out, Dianne. I don't even know if you caught this, but you said, I wish I would have known about whatever it was. I think it was Trafera's warranty program or something like that. But the spirit of those kinds of comments are saying, I'm still continuing to learn. And while I had a missed opportunity there, didn't know about it, I'm going to evangelize that best practice now in my next role. And it's those types of things that we say, a lot of times culture flows from leadership. And it's that kind of spirit that says, hey, I'm the director, or I'm the CTO of this program, but I'm here to learn as well. You did another thing, and you talked about how you were bringing people in to make these decisions. And I think sometimes when leadership, when we are intimidated about that or reluctant to do it, it's almost like we feel like, I don't know what the term, in West Virginia, we say we can't let the animals run the farm. You know what I mean? And it's like, there's probably a better way of saying that, but it's this idea that as the CTO, maybe I have to be the one making all the decisions. And there's a certain amount of confidence, self-confidence that says, no, I need perspective here. And you bring people to the table to answer those questions, but it doesn't mean that you're doing design by committee. You still maintain the authority and the positioning to make the decision that's best for your community or best for your school, even though you're leveraging input from other people. So I wanted to highlight those two. And I know we're running short on time, so I'm going to sprint through my talking points. I'm going to go really fast. I'm going to give you three. The first one is the main one, and then the second two are kind of subcategories of that one. So number one thing, when you're thinking about fostering culture through training, I will encourage you to teach the tool and the technique, not just the tool. And sometimes at Trafera, we say we're going to teach the product and the pedagogy. It's two different ways of saying the same thing. I can show you this. This is my Chromebook here. And I know what every one of these buttons do on this Chromebook. I know it inside and out. I know the product, but that does not mean that I can take this product and teach with it skillfully. Same thing with that Newline board behind me. I know the buttons on it, but knowing the buttons doesn't mean that I know the techniques and I know how to leverage that for an instructional purpose. And you can think about this. Think about the last 3 or 4 technology trainings you went to. What did they look like? You sat down, someone showed you, hey, this is the start button. This is where you do this. This is where you do that. And at the end, you know all of the speeds and feeds and features of the thing, but you haven't yet learned the art of teaching with that technology. And here's why I say that impacts culture. It's hard to believe, but it's entirely true that training, the wrong kinds of training or the incomplete training can lead to toxic culture. Dianne, you've seen this. Scott, you've seen this. You can have the best of intentions. I'm going to go train my people on these Promethean panels or these Newline panel, whatever it is. And at the end, all we've done is perpetuate kind of a frustrated sense of the experience because, yeah, like we learned all that, but next week I have to teach the solar system. What am I going to do with this, now I'm expected to use it and I have to leverage this technology. So you have to teach the tool. You also have to teach the technique. Now, let me give you the next two are going to be examples of teaching the technique. Let's start with collaboration. As a principal, Scott, we were always told we're going to go do observations and I want you looking for collaboration. You poke your head inside the door, you see 3 or 4 children that are sitting around in a pod. And because they're sitting in a group, maybe sharing color pencils or sharing resources or something, you assume that there's collaboration going on there. So when we're talking about collaboration, yes, we have to teach all the technology tools that enable it, but you also have to teach the art of collaboration. So I think about how high-level collaboration is having 3 big components. Number one, you have intentional constraints around that collaboration. So if me, Scott, and Dianne are all in a group, I'm going to say assign roles and put some intentional constraints so that we are forced to, by design, work together inside that. We have to have limited resources. We have to be able to share things. Sometimes we think about, oh gosh, there's only one robot. There's only one photon robot for the group. That's not a great design. No, I would encourage you to think that's a great design. Now we have to think intentionally about how to collaborate in the sense that we have to share that resource. The second element of high-level collaboration, you should have joint products. So if Scott creates slides 1 through 5, I do slides 6 through 10, and Dianne does slides 11 through 15, we can stand up and present that as a shared product. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that we've done anything to do a productive struggle or we've collaborated inside that, but we do have a shared product. Here's the third piece. The shared product should also have joint reasoning. Okay, that means that within that learning experience, we've created an opportunity for us to have a productive struggle and reason together. Now, you can have each of those 3 elements independent of each other, but the sweet spot is to have something where we have a design constraint, we have a shared product, and we have joint reasoning, all 3 in the same learning experience. I'll give you one more and I'm going to close with this. It's about defining our terms. I just showed a little bit of an example with defining terms around collaboration. You could do the same thing defining your terms around technology integration. Here we're talking about school culture. And if I set an expectation that as a building leader, as an instructional coach or whatever it is, I want to see tech integration happening in my schools, that broad term of technology integration could mean anything to anybody. I tell a story about a time it was in 2006. So we're going way back here, but I had an old IntelliBoard in my room. It was before the Smart brand even was developed. It was before Promethean. I had an old IntelliBoard and I was standing there. I taught math. So I was standing there and I had a digital marker and I was writing on that digital board with digital ink. And the principal came in and observed it. Later that day, I met up with him and he said, hey, I loved what you were doing with technology integration today in school. That was really in your class. That was really great. And I thought, man, what was really great about that? I was just standing there writing with digital ink in the same way that I could have used a dry erase marker or a piece of chalk or a stone and a chisel inside of a cave. It was all essentially the same kind of thing. But the problem was no one had defined the terms for excellence in terms of tech integration. It was just a concept that we all talked about and checked off of our list. So I'm going to close right here. When we're talking about high-level collaboration, be sure that you're defining your terms. I use the SAMR model to do that. There's other models that can do it. I use SAMR. SAMR is an acronym that stands for substitution, augmentation, modification, and redefinition. So when Dianne is integrating technology, I don't have to just go and say, hey, Dianne, nice job, pat her on the back. Good work, pat you on the back. What do you mean by good work? I mean, I can use specific terms and say, Dianne, that was really good. It felt like an augmentation to me. That's a great thing. I wonder if we tweak this thing or that thing, if we can make it a modification or a redefinition. So we're using specific terms. Everyone in the school is on board with the same kind of language around our expectations. And because of that, our school culture is going to improve because no one is left in the dark. We're not perpetuating this kind of blind ambiguity in terms of our expectations.
Oh, that is awesome. I, I sometimes I feel like I gotta pinch myself that I get to work with people like you guys and the other team. It's amazing. You know, I loved how you said we have to be cognizant of our training because it's true the wrong type of training can lead to a toxic culture, and the right can have such an incredible effect. And you also talked about, you know, how we need to live within our constraints,
Yeah.
acknowledge them. I like to say you got to define the borders of the sandbox
Yeah.
and then play, right? And it's that same thing, but constraints can actually be an asset as
Sure.
well, right?
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Awesome. I love that. Um, well, I'm gonna finish out with the last topic here called tools. And this is such a great conversation. I'm loving it. I'm going to highlight three specific uh, tools or three tools that I have found to be really helpful in my leadership in developing my school culture. And I'm going to describe and give examples of how really using these um, both as a principal and as a director of technology really became relevant. And the first I'm going to define as one-to-one management tools. Now we could talk about incident IQ, asset management, all that's part of it. But really, when I'm talking about these initiatives and I'm talking about school culture, I'm really trying to drill down what's happening between the student and the teacher, what's happening instructionally. And I think that you really need to have some classroom management tools to help facilitate that. We work with amazing partners like LineWise, Securely, GoGuardian that offer awesome tools like that. And I can tell you from my experience, I'll be honest with you, when we started our one-to-one initiative where I was principal and tech director, I had spent the previous 3 years as a technology coordinator, and I had a very negative view of those tools because I saw them, oh, the teacher is just going to sit at their desk. They aren't going to be engaging with students. We started our one-to-one initiative, and just like Dianne was talking earlier about teams, I had a team that was providing me feedback, and I heard from my teachers, hey, Scott, we need something to give us a resource to manage these devices in the classroom. We picked up something, and it really changed the game, not only for my teachers in the classroom, but also how I could lead my school. From that moment on, every time I met with a parent and we were talking about anything, whether it was behavior, whether it was grades, whether it was anything, I would bring up that dashboard, that data dashboard, and we talk about what is the student engaging with, both in campus and off campus. How are they engaging with the technology, the tools? Are they spending 6 hours a day on YouTube? 6 hours plus sometimes, you know, how can we constrain some? One of the things I was able to do was at 11 p.m. every day, every Chromebook shut off. The only thing they could access was a website that I made that said, go to bed. And, you know, and that is part of that culture. It's kind of building that culture of success that defines those constraints to say, hey, how am I going to engage with this? And again, how am I going to be talking about this continuously? Those programs can even offer things like, I won't go into great detail, but I do have that a story about a student that we were directly able to intervene in a suicide situation for a student. And from the time that the student was on their device actively looking for ways to harm themselves to the time that I was on the phone with that student and we had police in there, my counselor was on the phone with the student's parents, was 3 minutes. And we had that access was just so important. So when you're developing your plans and you have your teams, you're talking about training, really think about how am I going to manage all my devices in this one-to-one environment that's going to enhance the instructional program. The next I'm going to talk about are Google Workspace licenses. not some sexy thing to talk about, but managing, get in there, learning how you can leverage the Google Workspace to your advantage. I'll give another example of something I did. In the Google admin portal, you can define the background of every one of your devices. You can do it by OU, you can do it by whatever. For us, we had a really strong commitment to our PBIS goals. So every month we had a featured PBIS initiative, say responsibility or whatever that was. I would make that the background of every device at the school. So I could walk up to any student and be like, hey, what's our initiative for the month, responsibility, however it goes, they were able to engage with that. And I was actually able to use it as a communication platform directly with my students, because I knew every time they were opening up their device, it was right there in their face. It also afforded me the opportunity to really know what was going on with my devices. Where are my devices? How are they being used? Are they being used effectively? Are they being used as consistently? Am I using my resources effectively to reach the goals I've set? So I think it's incredibly important to become really proficient at that. And that really builds a culture, again, not only where I'm using the tools, engaging the tools, but people can see that engagement increase. The last tool I'm going to feature are interactive flat panels. Now, we have great partnerships with Newline and Promethean boards, and they're awesome. And, our school, we went to from projectors to mobile carts on our interactive flat panels when we did that. And it was amazing the impact that had on our school culture and engagement. Give you one quick example. And what it did for us is it removed the orientation of the classroom from the sage on the stage or the teacher is the front of the classroom, because that was defined by this static thing, to you can have that anywhere you want. I had a teacher, strong teacher, great teacher. However, we came back from COVID and we reopened, and it was a rough start. And we kind of got going a little bit, and we were 3-4 weeks into students being back, and the classroom culture was off. Mm-hmm. Lots of discipline issues, lots of frustrations. I met with the teacher, we talked, and he really felt as though he just didn't launch well. He didn't get on the right foot. So what we did after school on a Friday is we flipped every desk 180 degrees. We took the panel, tossed it in the back of the classroom. Students came, and it was just kind of flipped their orientation and their thinking to the entire class. And he was almost able to start over. And he expressed that with the student, and just that shock was enough to kind of change the dynamic. So you're able to kind of get away from that structure, create spaces and instructional opportunities that are awesome. Now, I could go on and on and on about different tools, different ways I've heard about successes and stories that we have, which is awesome. But it's just one of those things that I think is amazing to have in your repertoire. We would love to engage in deeper conversations with you. Myself, Josh, Diane, we've got an amazing team. Thank you for bringing up those key takeaways, Kate, that you have. Jot these down. Any of us would love to engage in a further conversation with you. Encourage you, fill out the exit survey, get your Starbucks. One last thing, if you find this topic to be really, really valuable, and you want to delve deeper, there is question number 1. Are you interested in more future sessions, resources, and content on this topic? Let us know. If you guys want more, we'd love to make more about this. And yeah, no, we appreciate you so much. Josh, Diane, it was an absolute pleasure presenting with you guys. And we can give some time to questions if you guys have questions. And that would be awesome. Thank you so much. Anything else to add, Josh, Diane?
No, I just want to thank everyone for attending, and please don't hesitate to reach out should you have any questions. I would be happy to help.
Awesome. I'm just looking to see if we have any questions. Cool. Anything else, Kate?
Nothing in my end. I will mimic just thanking everyone for being here. Thanks so much to each of our speakers today. Josh, you're like so professional podcaster today.
I got this. Yeah, I got this microphone, man.
Great.
I got to use it. Shout out
Yeah,
to
you got that
Logitech
great
for hooking me
microphone.
up, man.
But
No.
yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in. We'll get those gift cards sent out. We have some more sessions coming down the pipe. They're not on our events site yet, so they're all in the works, but we have some exciting sessions coming in May and June, so keep an eye out for that. And just best of luck closing out the school year at your own districts. Thanks again.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Everybody, thank you so much.